Let me get this going. I'm going live on Facebook. Woo! Oh, I'm now live on Facebook. Hello, and hopefully everybody that joins in, I will be able to add you without much ado. But today we are restarting the Death Diner, which was started by Vanessa Regan and myself. I'm in it. I'm just full of like tongue twisty thingies today. I met Vanessa when she messaged me on Facebook. She was part of a flat dating group, I believe, and thought that I could help out as a mentor in the flat dating group because of my work with body positivity. So we got to chatting. She looked fun. And I love the photos that she had up and the way her hair was done and stuff. And we just started talking. And she told me where she lived. And I said, well, my mother-in-law and my mom live right down the street from you. I know where that's at. Can I come visit you? Because she had expressed to me that she had been metastatic for about 3 years. So originally Vanessa was diagnosed with endometrial carcinoma, so uterine cancer, when she was 22, I believe. And then she didn't know at the time, but she was BRCA positive. They never did BRCA testing when she was diagnosed again with breast cancer when she was, I think, 33. And she had not long after that become metastatic. I met her when she had been metastatic about 3 years, and I came to see her in her house, and she was on an IV bag because she had so much vomiting and so much trouble going to the bathroom because the endometrial carcinoma had caused growth in her digestive system. There was a lot of stuff that had to be figured out. A lot of stuff got figured out in the 3 years that I knew her. But I went to go see her and she was not in good shape. But her heart was very light and there was something about her that was familiar. And so I just wanted to talk to her and I just wanted to spend more time with her. And she was interested in me as well. And the more I talked to her, the more I realized that it wasn't so much the progression of the metastatic disease that was holding her back from living her life, but her fear of dying. So she was raised around the mortuary. Her mom used to prepare people for their open caskets at a mortuary. She was doing the same. She did a lot of the same work. So it wasn't like she was not familiar with the dead. But she herself did not want to leave her daughter, and she did not want to leave this world. In the 3 years that I knew her, she was never stable. Her metastasis just continued to grow. So the reason she became metastatic, which people don't always know why you become metastatic, but for her, we know it's because she had an endometrial carcinoma, had her uterus removed and her ovaries, and then later got breast cancer, got her breast removed, and then was put on tamoxifen. Tamoxifen turns down the estrogen in your ovaries, but it will turn it up in your uterine and in your cervix. So there were a few of those cells floating around in her body cavity, and they lit up with the tamoxifen, and she was metastatic. In the time that I knew her, we talked so much, and I would encourage her so much, and she was so fun to be around. There was one day when I'm looking at the crows flying outside, in case you're wondering. There was one day I heard in my head, she needs to confront her mortality in order to move on. And I thought to myself, how do you do that? How do you confront your mortality? How do you want me to do this, but how do I do this? So I talked to her about it, and I said, do you think making your funeral plans would help you to carry on with your life? That way your family didn't have to worry about doing those things if and when you should pass. And she said yes. And we went to Forest Lawn in Cyprus. We made an appointment, and I went with her, and she filled out all the paperwork for herself. She got choked up a lot because decedent, which means the dead person, had her own name. And I know that making funeral plans can be difficult for anyone, let alone someone that is metastatic and young. She was 46 when we did it, I believe. So she filled out the paperwork. She knew she wanted a crypt. We walked around the grounds. They showed us a couple of different mausoleums. She picked this beautiful niche that was like a square. And she picked the one that she wanted. And we went back into the office and we filled out the paperwork, and she put a down payment down. And she said that it was like a weight was lifted off of her shoulders. She now knew where she was going to go when she died. She felt at peace. And she started to go out more. She started to date. We started doing photo shoots with her. She was so beautiful. I told her, I can't believe you were never photographed. It's crazy. We talked about doing a Gothic photo shoot in the cemetery with her. She didn't have aesthetic flat closure, but she had a double mastectomy. She wanted aesthetic flat closure, but the doctor that did the mastectomy told her that you're going to want reconstruction. So it wasn't as perfect and flat as she wanted, but we agreed that she wanted it exposed. So we both did our goth chick best to dress up, and we had our daughter dress up too. And we did professional photos. We had my daughter take them of her in the mortuary. She has beautiful, long, blonde dreads and this gauzy lace top with her entire chest out. And that helped her also to confront the fact that she was young. Her body was betraying her. She had people that she loved that she didn't want to leave. But that she wanted to enjoy her life while she could. The deterioration was ugly. she was not granted disability because she filed for it a couple times in the years that I knew her, and they denied it every time because they thought that vomiting feces was not grounds for disability. Yeah, you can still work if you're vomiting feces, apparently. And she really pushed, and she tried to make the best of it. I had come upon somewhere, there's a nonprofit called Death Cafe where they do just this. People get together, and this was back when there was in-person stuff. They get together and people freely talk about death, their fears of death, what they think happens, what they want to do for their funerals, what they want done with their bodies. They talk about people that they love that died. And that sounded beautiful to me because I've never been afraid of death. I've only been afraid to suffer because I saw my mom suffer. And I suffered quite a lot when I was in cancer treatment. And I did that, so I'm no longer afraid to suffer. So I was happy to talk about death. As my son says, when there's a dead rat in the pool, "Oh, I didn't fish it out of the pool, Mom, because you like dead things." I never said I liked dead things. I'm just not squeamish about it. So in preparation for her death, Vanessa had me read a couple of books. I will find the books and I will share them. But it was on something called Death Doula, which, like a birth doula, a death doula specializes in being a hospice nurse for people who are dying. And the book was incredibly helpful. It not only explains what they believe is happening to people towards the end of their life when they die naturally, but the stages of like the downhill descent. Close the door. Close the door. Sorry. Professionalism at its finest. And so that was very helpful to me. We had a very significant person in our family die after I had read the book. And this was before Vanessa had passed. And I'm all thrown off. So we started having in-person meetings for the Death Diner. We had called it Death Cafe at first. And then the nonprofit got a hold of me and said, if you're not doing it this way, the exactly same way that we do it, you can't call it Death Cafe. So we like the 50s stuff, so we called it Death Diner. And we had a couple of meetings in Anaheim where anybody was free to come together and talk about their loved ones and stuff like that. We had little prizes, and it was a great experience. But as her health declined, we were unable to go, and she was unable to come, which really was crushing for her. At one point in time, she started having seizures, and she lost the ability to use her hands. And her speech was affected, but not greatly. After the seizures, she would tell me, I know how to knit, but I can't remember how to do it. So she would say, I know I remember. And she would like force herself. She'd have the knitting needles in her hand and would say, it's so frustrating because I know how to do it. And there was a time when like her speech got worse and then it got better. So she went like in and out of like being close to death like several times. One of the times she had a blockage in her digestive tract and she couldn't eat or drink anything, and she couldn't poop. And she got really bad and she was hospitalized. During this time that she was hospitalized, she was out of it. They thought she was gonna go for sure. They did this procedure where they would remove blood from her and cycle it back into her body to keep her alive. And it worked, but she was unresponsive and people thought she was gone. But when she came back, she told us that she remembered what went on when she was gone. Meaning